hope you're all feeling nice and pumped. We have a huge afternoon this afternoon, and we're going to waste no time and jump straight into it. So, to kick us off in the first half, we have a question that I'm sure is on everyone's lips at some point in their life, which is, does size matter? And of course, it's a question that we have Julien, who's online marketing manager for Ovolo Hotels, here to take us through some of the challenges and the opportunities of big data and how it relates to SMEs. Now, these guys, it's a pretty busy time for them. They have a new hotel opening up down in Aberdeen next week, so we really appreciate your time, and please make you feel welcome to the stage.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm very happy to be the one to answer that question because obviously all of you are thinking about it. I hope you all had a coffee. I know it's going to be a tough time, but I'm sure I'm going to make it interesting enough so that you don't fall asleep. Please give me some of your trust here. I'm actually very happy to be here today because we've been talking about big data for years now. But very few people focus on what can big data do for SMEs. Big data is all about collecting huge amounts of data, of information, right? But when you are just an SME, can you access such a volume of data? You might not be. So I would like to give you maybe a little case study of what it is that we do in Ovolo Hotels, how successful we've been with that, and what do we suggest other people might do as well to just apply the same strategy to their own business. But before, I'd like to start with what is it that we do? What is Ovolo Hotels? Ovolo Hotels is basically a group that has a set of different boutique hotels. Each of our hotels is very unique, has its own DNA, its own type of guest. We are present here in Hong Kong, but we are also present in Australia. We are opening a few new hotels, and as Matt just mentioned, we're actually opening one in Wongchakan in the middle of next week. We are a company that really works so hard to get awards, to get the word out, because we are a very small company. We are a family-owned company. But actually, even though we're a family-owned company, we might be the largest family-owned company in the hospitality industry here in Hong Kong. And that is very important for us, because we were talking about size just before. But we are not ashamed at all about being a small company. We actually find that this is not a challenge. This is really our best luck. This is the best thing we might have. Because we are a small company, we just offer a very dedicated service to all of our guests. We are not such companies, such hotels with 500 different rooms. We are small boutique hotels, which means that guests for us, they are not numbers. They actually matter. We know their name, we greet them differently each day, and we really care about the people we are working with. I just show some of the awards that we are winning here because for us it matters to say that we are working very hard to get the recognition of people and to make our guests happy. If I just take the simple numbers, I would talk to everyone. Here in Hong Kong, there are 600 hotels on TripAdvisor. I'm pretty sure everyone knows TripAdvisor, this large platform where people just give their comments and rate the different hotels they've been staying in. Just for TripAdvisor, we have 3 hotels in the top 30 of Hong Kong hotels. And that is just for all the hotels. Now, before I go to real big data, I'd like to give you a little bit background of what it is that brought us here. So I will just take a step back and tell you a little bit about the history of Ovolo Hotels. We started in 2002. Now you might have heard this morning Louis from IBM talking about how IBM discovered the real concept of big data in 1957. But actually, a very important date for big data is really 2002. 2002 is the year where a large American company called Target was able to collect the data, analyze the data up to a point where they could actually predict if a woman got pregnant. And so many people were talking about this back in 2002, and we still tell the story nowadays when people try to explain what is big data all about. So not a bad year to start, right? So we started in 2002, but back then we were not doing hotels. We were doing service departments. And then ever since, we've been growing pretty fast. 2002, 2005, we keep buying new properties, we keep growing the business, we keep expanding the business. Now if you look at 2002, what is very interesting is that at that time in Hong Kong, for the Just for the year 2002, we had 16.5 million tourists coming in Hong Kong. And do you know what happened in 2011? From 16.5 million, we jumped to 42 million tourists, just for the city of Hong Kong, just for the year 2011. Then that's when we started to think, you know what, maybe better than service apartment, maybe what we could do is actually go into a hotel business. Then we started to shift, buying new properties again, but shifting our service apartment to a hotel business. And well, I would say that that was a pretty smart choice because 2013, we got 54 million tourists coming over to Hong Kong. And can you guess how many people are coming in 2014? Predictions are saying that 2014 we should have about 70 million tourists coming here. 70 million basically means 10 times the entire population of Hong Kong. So that's a huge number. So in terms of business, that was the right choice. But in terms of big data, that was a very good choice as well. Because when you think about service apartment, you are actually talking about having customers that are staying for a period of 30 to 60 days average. When you're talking about hotel business, you have hundreds and hundreds of customers coming in and out every day. And that makes a big difference because with all this traffic, then there is really data to collect. There is something we can do with this. And that's what we've been doing in Ovolo for the past few years. Now I'm really going to start talking about big data. But before talking about what Ovolo Hotel has been doing with big data, I want to share my personal experience with you for just a minute so that you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm saying what I'm saying. And to do that, I'd like to take the example of HSBC. I've been a customer of HSBC for 7 years now. Actually, I've even been a premier customer of HSBC for 7 years. I opened my first account back in France 7 years ago. Then I arrived to Hong Kong and I opened the second account. For the past 7 years, I've been talking with my account manager, not on a monthly basis, but almost. I've been opening accounts, talking about investments plan, talking about insurance. I've been filling tons of forms, tons of surveys. Basically, if you talk with HSBC, they might know me better than my mom does. They know everything from my name to my passport number to the amount of money I have in my account. But they do more than that. I have an HSBC credit card. And what do I do with it? I purchase whatever I can, right? So basically, if you talk with HSBC, they might be able to tell you what restaurants I prefer. What is the shop I prefer to buy my clothes? Or what is the online store that I prefer to visit every Sunday? They should be able to tell you that. Now the real question is, what does HSBC do with such data? How do they analyze it? And what do they actually use it for? Every now and then I receive, and I'm sure you receive the same thing in your mailbox, every now and then I receive some EDMs, some marketing letters, whether it's an email or a traditional mail. And I took one example here with me today, just to share it with you so that you understand what big data is all about and what we can do with it. So this is the typical mail that I would receive in my box every now and then. And I'm pretty sure after I start reading it, you will understand what's my point. 親愛的 Rio 先生，我們先要為你送上一項特別優惠。I don't know. When I read this, I just think that HSBC 真係要為呢個為我識睇中文。Honestly, we've been working together for 7 years. They know everything about me, and when they send me an email, when they send me a mail, they send it in Chinese. That leads me to the next point. If those huge corporates that know everything about me are not able to even know that I don't read Chinese, then what can SMEs actually do with big data? So here's my point. For SMEs, here in Ovolo, we're not thinking in terms of big data. We gave up the idea for the moment. What we are thinking about is only relevant data, smart data, useful data. Because that's the only thing that actually matters. And I will go back to the HSBC example anytime someone tells me, no, you need to collect as much as you can. No, that's not true. Maybe that will be useful at some point, I agree. But right now what matters is what can you actually do with the data you get? This graphic just shows you a very standard trend. What I want to highlight here is that in the past few years, what people have been doing is collecting as much as they can. And now that's easy. Because technology is overwhelming nowadays. And as we mentioned this morning, it's so easy to collect data once you have technology. So people just collect and collect and collect and collect and get it. They get so much data that they don't even know what to do with it. But Ovolo Hotels, we are kind of taking a different path here. And you know why? I think it is because most companies are thinking in terms of business. We are thinking with a customer perspective. Now try to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Try to think about your own experience. How many times did the company ask you to fill in a form that you already filled in a month ago? How many times do we ask you the same questions again and again just because we don't take the time to check whether we have the answer already or not? I'm coming from France. In my country, that's not weird at all if sometime you receive in your mailbox a letter with a form asking you for your mail address. Then you think about it, come on man, you just posted it to me, you should know it, right? But you still ask it. There's something weird about this, and that's just because people want to collect and collect and collect, and they don't think whether they need it or not. But from a customer perspective, that is really annoying. So think about it. Do you really want to annoy your customer for just a few more seconds, or do you want to ask him only the questions that you need to provide him with a perfect service? So that's why in Ovolo Hotels we kind of took a different path here. We are trying to ask less questions, but what we do is that whatever question we ask, before we ask it, we make sure that we have a use for it. We make sure that somehow it's going to either improve the business or improve the customer's experience or improve something in the long term. That must have a purpose before we ask a question. Now I'm going to share with you just a few elements that I would consider as big data information. Basically, I'm going to share a few sources where we grab the data and what we do with it, so that you understand why I'm saying that whatever we take, we actually have a purpose for it. I'm going to start with the most obvious one, bookings and check-in. Whenever you stay in a hotel, at some point you have to book the room, and at some point you're going to have to check in. And that is when we grab the information. And once again, we grab only what we need. We don't, in Ovolo Hotels, we don't give you a check-in form with 20 pages to know everything about your history and your past. We just want to know what matters to us. So it just takes up to 1 to 2 minutes. Eventually, you might even do the booking before you arrive, so that you save just so much time, and then you can go directly to your room. So, booking and checking. We grab information such as demographics, such as contact information, and that is something we're going to be able to use in the future for promotions, for ads, for ADMs. It's kind of important to find the demographics, especially for a business like ours, because, as I said earlier, Ovolo Hotels is a lot of different boutique hotels. And what is very special about us is that each hotel is really unique. Which means that we have a different DNA, we have a different style, we might have different things within the hotel, but we also have a very different target group. And that is what we are able to collect with such information. And we will use it in order to make sure that the people we are talking to actually receive the right information. They receive what they are looking for. Let me take another example of data that we're collecting. Here I'm talking about web analytics. Web analytics is so important. Nowadays, most people don't bother going to a shop to find the right hotel. It's so convenient to go on the internet and to book directly. But if you want to be able to do this, if you want to offer this service to your guests, then at some point you're going to have to make sure that your website is designed in such a way that you can use it as a real sales tool. And the only way to do this in the past was to use your guts. Means you would just look at what design you think is best, what appeals the most to you, and what you believe your customers are going to do. But now we don't need that anymore. Now we have big data, and what big data means is just using your guts and making it stronger with real figures, real data, that can confirm whether you're right or wrong, and then give you the right direction. So if I take the example of page efficiency, by looking at analytics, whether you use ZT or Google Analytics doesn't actually matter. By using A/B testing, by using landing pages, by checking on your bouncing rate, by checking on traffic of specific pages, by checking the real flow of your page, And when I say flow, I mean where are people coming from, which page do they go on, what is their path, and what is the ultimate goal. Are you selling to them, or are they bouncing to another website? And by looking at such statistics, you will actually be able to tell what you need to change on your website, what you need to improve, and that's what we've been doing. For the past few months, we've been improving again and again and again our website, and that's not done. And we're going to keep doing it, because what really matters is that we change this simple web tool into a real sales tool. Before I go to the next point, I just want to talk a little bit about social media, because that's such an important thing for us as well. Ovolo Hotels is active on 8 different social media platforms, and I mean active. It's not just an account there. If you connect to us through any of those accounts, I can guarantee you that you will receive an answer in top 24 hours maximum. What we do as well is that we are very active on Facebook, and we are actually kind of proud of it. I'm writing here that we have 200,000 plus followers. Actually, as for today, that's 13,000 followers. That might sound a little bit stupid to precise it, but that's very important for us because we've been working so hard for it. And actually, we've not been working so hard just for the number. We don't care whether we are actually the largest Hong Kong page for the hospitality industry. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is creating engagement. I'm not talking about sales here. Social media is not a sales tool. Social media is an engagement tool. What we have been doing for the past few years is creating bond with our customers. Making sure there is a link, making sure there is a conversation between them and us. In the past, everyone, when it came to marketing, was just doing vertical communication. I tell something, you listen. Now that's not the case anymore. Now if you want to be on top of things, you have to make sure that you have only horizontal communication. I tell something and I expect an answer to bounce back. I expect to create a conversation, to discuss with people, to get feedback, to get insight. And that is very important because that's also something we use actively in big data. Even though social media information is not structured data, that's something we gotta use. So if I talk about social media, or if I talk about TripAdvisor I mentioned earlier, or if I talk about all the surveys that we give to our guests to get feedback from their side, all these kind of things are very important pieces of data that we gotta put together if we want to improve the business. Now, instead of going through all those stages with strange theories, let me give you a very concrete example. In past August 2013, we opened a new hotel in Aberdeen. And just a few weeks after the opening, we got the same recurring question coming back again and again and again on social media. How do I get from the airport to your hotel? It took us no more than a few weeks to analyze all the different platforms, to find the right solution, to improve our website, to improve our content, to redesign the website itself, to improve the way we deal with social media, to make sure that no one needs to ask this question again because they find the answer. And that's just one example. There are tons of examples that way. We are using different tools to make sure that we look at what is happening on social media and to make sure that we understand what people are telling us so that we can use this data. And it's not just a matter of making sure that we reply to the customer. It's a matter of making sure that we get his insight and then we do something out of it. And in-hotel experience is also something so important. And once again, that's something we are so lucky with because we are a very, very small company. We are having unique boutique hotel and we are giving a special service to our customers which enable us to know them so well, to create conversations within the hotel that we can really get feedback. That's something that every hotel should do, but not that every hotel can do, unfortunately, because of the size of some of those buildings. But basically what we're trying to achieve is making sure that if you stay with us once, we know your name, we know your passport number, we know all this kind of thing that helps us making sure that next time you come, we won't ask you the same questions again. But that also helps us to know your preferences, whether you have allergies or not, whether you have suggested something or not. So that next time you come with us, we're going to be able to do something about it and to make sure that you know we remember you. That's what makes our service so unique. And that's how we also use big data. And I will use a last example to end up with that part, surveys and trends. Surveys and trends, basically, it's not all to know what your customers are thinking. It might not be enough to know what happens on your website. You also need to look at others. What are the trends for the hospitality industry? What are other players doing? What are the predictions for the demographics coming to Hong Kong in 2015? All this kind of information is also something we have to deal with. That's also information we have to collect, we have to analyze, and we have to use. What do we use it for? Well, that mainly depends. But basically, I would say that the first aspect of it is learning, trying to find new ideas. In Ovolo Hotels, we are trying very hard to be unique, because that's the only way to survive when you're a small company in such a big business. So by trying to be unique, we try to look at what others do. And instead of copying, because it's never really interesting for anyone to be the second one doing something, we try to think, what would be next step? How can we take this idea and make it even better, make it more innovative, make it so special that we could predict what customers want even before they think about it? And the second thing we use this kind of data for is basically confirming strategies, where we write in what we've decided end of 2013. Was that the right way? Should we change our direction? That's all the kind of data we are trying to collect, and that's what we are trying to achieve with this. Now that I've been talking a lot about all these theories, what we collect, what we're trying to do, let me take a few more minutes just to give you a very concrete example of what it is we've been doing in the past few years, so that you really understand all this data we've been collecting, what did we do with it. Here are a few features that you will find in any Ovolo hotels. When you're staying with us here in Hong Kong, or when you go to Australia, you will find the same thing here. Flexible checkout, that's the one I want to start with. I think that's so important. Hotels took many years to understand this concept, but that might be one of the most important. Basically, you arrive, let's say you arrive in Hong Kong, right? I'm sure that many of you actually are coming from other countries just for this conference, so you might have this experience, and you might think about it tonight when you go back to your hotel. Do I have a flexible checkout time? Do I have a flexible check-in time? My airplane might arrive in Hong Kong at 6 a.m., but the hotel will just tell me, sorry, no check-in before 2 p.m. That's a rule. Or you might be able to check in earlier, but that's going to cost you so much money that might not actually be worth it. In Ovolo hotels, whenever it's possible, we really offer flexible check-in, check-out to all of our guests, because we try to understand what is their problem, what is it that they need. Let me take another example. Free breakfast, free snacks and drinks. That is also, if you just look at what I talked about earlier, which means all the market trends. If you look at market information from, for example, hotels.com, they make every year a survey of what are the 10 most important perks for hotels. Every time, one of the first items that come back is free breakfast. Then why not just offering free breakfast to your guests? That's what they're looking for. So that's what we've been doing for years now. We're just offering you free breakfast because we know that's exactly what you're looking for. And we found the information early enough to make sure you get it. But we go, once again, one step further. Many hotels are offering free breakfast, right? Nothing so special about it. But free snacks and drinks. What is the main difference between your home and your hotel? Your home might be more comfortable for one reason. Maybe if you are hungry at 3 a.m. in the morning, you cannot sleep, you're just going to open your fridge and grab something there. Easy, right? Trying to do this in the hotel might be more complicated. If you're lucky, you might have the room service. You might even decide to stay in Toronto, where they will charge you $18.33 for a can of nuts. It's crazy. What we are trying to do here is to make you feel so comfortable staying in the hotel that it's exactly like home, just with a greater experience. So basically, if you stay in Ovolo hotels, you're going to have free snacks and drinks 24 hours a day. And that is by looking at the trends. That is by talking with the customers. That's by collecting all this kind of feedback, putting it together and trying to analyze what it is that we should do. Same thing for the free social happy hour. When you're a business traveler, once you've signed your contract, once you're done with your business day, then you go back to the hotel. You might be tired, you might not know the city, you might not know anyone, you might not know what you should do at night, right? That might be difficult. So what we installed in all Ovolo hotels is the free social happy hours. From 6 to 8, just enjoy a glass of wine, just enjoy whatever drink with other people staying in the lounge with you. Just mingle, just socialize. Just find out other people are in the same situation with you, exchange business card, make some business, make some friends, just have a party outdoor. That's what we're trying to create here. That's not bringing us any real value. That's bringing value to our guests. That's making them remember why they are staying in Ovolo hotels and why is it that they should come back next time. And that is also something that we do because we collect the feedback. It's not just one hotel manager getting the information and keeping it for itself. That's really putting it all together, centralizing it, analyzing it, and trying to bring it to the next stage. Free self-laundries, that's also so important when you travel with your family. You might not have enough luggage to bring all the clothes you might need. And most hotels will actually ask you to pay for this kind of service. But it doesn't make sense. We just offer you all you need. It's free. Make your machine by yourself. Just get your clothes and get ready for another day of fun. That's what travel should be all about, right? Apple TV. Apple TV. Okay, I was not planning on making advertisement for Apple here, but you must say that that's actually a pretty cool tool that we got here. Apple TV is just another way to make you feel more comfortable. Basically, you come to your room after a funny day in Ocean Park at the peak, wherever in Hong Kong, and then you get automatically your iPhone or your iPad connected to the TV, your music starts playing, you have all your movies available, and that's just another way to make you feel like, I chose this hotel because it makes me feel like I want to feel. Free in-room mini bars and snacks. Free in-room mini bars and snacks. That's something we've been thinking about for so long, and we have installed it in the very early stage of Ovolo Hotel, because we really find that this is the next step. How many times, okay, I'm going to talk especially to those people who have a family here. How many times did you go to a hotel with your kids and you had to explain to your kids that actually opening the mini bar and taking random stuff here is not like at home. You're charged for it, and that's really expensive. That's difficult to explain this to your kids, right? Because they just don't get it. Free should be free. So that's what we've done here. We didn't want to deal with all those unsatisfied customers because we know from our own experience that when we travel and we are charged for the mini bars, then we are unsatisfied. So what we do is that you stay with us, you get free juices, free beers, free bottles of water, free snacks, all this in your mini bar, and no one's going to charge you for this. Empty everything, tomorrow morning you will be refilled. That's also part of the experience, and that's something you can do only if you collect the right data, if you talk to the right people, if you listen to what they're saying online, if you listen to market trends. And then we'll end this presentation with one last item that also comes from listening to our customers, and that is a Wi-Fi. I kept it for the end because I think that's really the most important one. Our CEO actually talks about Wi-Fi in terms of human rights, which is quite true. I think it's quite true. Who here can tell, I don't need internet? Whether it's for your personal life, to keep in touch with your family, to send pictures on your social media, to talk with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your goldfish. Whether it's just to be able to keep in touch with your office because you have so many business emails every day. Wi-Fi is so important. But what is a traditional thing that happens when you go in a hotel? You will go to the counter, you will go to the lobby, you will ask what is the login password for the Wi-Fi, and then they will tell you, sir, just have to sign here, that's going to cost you X dollars per day, and then we'll give you the password. Why should I pay for this? Well, okay, I don't have a choice, so I'm going to pay for this anyway, right? Then once I pay for it, I will find out that the internet probably works only in the lobby, if I'm just next to the counter, if I'm standing on one foot, I won't be able to download anything besides my emails, if I'm lucky. That's not how it should be. Once again, customer's experience. The whole concept of big data should be collecting information for customers' experience. So what we've been doing here is offering for free super speed Wi-Fi to all of our guests. And I mean super speed Wi-Fi. If you know, in Hong Kong especially, there are now a few websites that actually calculate the Wi-Fi speed for hotels. I invite you to check it out. All of the hotels are always on the top 5 of the best Wi-Fi speed in Hong Kong. But then same thing here. We went one step further. We've been talking with the people coming here. We've been trying to think, what is it that people want, is it enough to offer you free Wi-Fi? Maybe there is something better to do. Because slowly, other hotels are doing the same thing, right? You start very slowly, you start finding free Wi-Fi in many other hotels. So what is it that we could do that would be so special that people would be wow when they arrive in Ovolo? What we do is free access to over 11,000 Wi-Fi spots around the city. You get your login password 24 hours before you land in Hong Kong, and it's valid until 24 hours after you left the city. Basically, you arrive at the airport, no need to bother about knowing how much roaming you're going to pay at the end of your stay. You just have Wi-Fi. Just use it. It's free. That's part of the deal. And that's all the things we are trying to do. And you can do it only if you actually listen to what people are saying. If you really collect the right data, not bothering people with extra data you don't need, but just collecting what you need, trying to understand it, and trying to bring it to next step. And I understand that here we're not talking about thousands and thousands of rows of data like huge companies might be. We are talking about SMEs only, right? So there might be smaller amount of data, but what really matters is to find out how to use it. What is it you want to know? And that's what we've been doing for the opening of our new hotel that will open in Wongchakang next week. That's what we are really trying to achieve on a daily basis. So I really invite you all not to believe anything I said, but to test it for yourself. Just come to Ovolo hotels anytime and you will see the experience is amazing. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. Thanks very much, Julien. We have a question. Okay, so why is it that most hotels only book you in at 2 p.m.? And how can you do it in a flexible way? And what does the data that you gather, how does it assist in helping make decisions like this?
How is it that we are able to do it? I think it's all a matter of what you're willing to try doing. When you're a very large corporate, you have rules. You have to follow the rules. That's just the way it works. If anyone does whatever they want, then you're just not going to be able to make any business. But the structure of our company is, once again, it's a small company with very unique hotels. So we give sufficient flexibility for people to think by themselves, for people to see that guest is what matters the most. Once you start thinking with this perspective, then everything is possible. As long as you're not 100% booked with 20 people waiting in the lobby for the next room, there is always a way to make something to make sure that customers are happy. There is always a solution. It's just a matter of thinking about it. And as for the second part of your question, how do we use big data for this? Well, I would not get into technical details, but basically we are using a few softwares depending on what data we're talking about. But what really matters is to put everything together, to look at social media on one side, to look at what hotels manager report to us every day, to look at what information we find from web analytics, to look at what are the market trends, and to put it all together. And that's a lot of work, because once again, this is not structured data. What you get on Google Analytics is very structured. What you get from social media is not. What the feedback you get from your hotel's manager depends on how they want to communicate it to you. So it's very difficult. That's a lot of work, but that's the only way to actually get all the juice you need to make things different within your company.